There are so many things that make the Netherlands special.
We are on a quest to experience as much of it as possible while visiting our daughter who lives here and taking Cassandra's father, who's from the Cayman Islands, on the European trip of a lifetime. This is our Netherlands story about our explorations and our family's connections with this beautiful land. Welcome to the 8th episode of our Netherlands story, where we visit the capital and the largest city in the Netherlands, Amsterdam. So this was my first time visiting Amsterdam, at least besides going back and forth to the airport. But Cassandra had been there a couple of other times in the past, where she visited some of the famous museums like the Van Gogh Museum and the Rijksmuseum. But this time, during this visit, we had a very specific agenda. We wanted to see the beautiful fall colors around the canals in Amsterdam, and we wanted to visit the Anne Frank House.
Yes, I had visited the Anne Frank House last year when I took my solo trip to visit our daughter, which was also in the fall last year. But this time I really wanted to go back, experience it again with Scott and my dad, who was visiting with us all the way from the Cayman Islands. The Anne Frank House, the Anne Frank story really is such a powerful and moving story. And it meant a lot to be able to share that with my dad and Scott. So after that trip to the museum and walking through the house, we took a beautiful canal cruise, also to see the ports. My dad especially loved that. But that is such a beautiful way to enjoy the city, or any city in the Netherlands. So we really enjoyed seeing the fall colors along the canals while on the canal cruise. So it was an amazing experience.
That was one of our favorite experiences in the Netherlands.
Definitely.
It was a short 35-minute train ride from Utrecht Centraal to Amsterdam Centraal Station. It was a Monday, and we wanted to avoid rush hour traffic on the train, so we left in the late morning, with plans to have lunch in Amsterdam before going to the Anne Frank House at 1:30 p.m. We arrived at the beautiful Amsterdam Centraal Station, which was built between 1881 and 1889 and designed by Pierre Kuipers, who also designed the Rijksmuseum in Amsterdam and Castle de Haar in Utrecht, which we will be touring in our next episode. The castle-like style of these buildings is called Neo-Gothic or Neo-Renaissance. The weather was cloudy with a bit of light rain this October morning, but it was cool and comfortable, and you will see that we will get some sunshine a bit later.
In front of the station, you'll notice a sign that says Amsterdam Centraal 2023 to 2030. This refers to a massive redesign, renovation, and expansion project that began in 2023 and will continue through 2030 that will expand the capacity for more trains and more passengers at this busy station. We walked over to the nearby canals to check out some of the beautiful views around the station. The station looked beautiful from this angle, and we thought that it was a perfect place to capture a selfie. The selfie also captured my dad in the background with a papa cam, capturing us at the same time.
Okay, we're in Amsterdam now. We just came out of the train station, and this is what it looks here. They're doing a selfie.
Our plan was to walk from the station along the Damrak toward the Dam Square, then cross 3 canals before getting to the Prinsengracht, the canal and avenue where the Westerkerk and Anne Frank House are located.
The Damrak is the main route leading from Amsterdam Centraal to Dam Square. Near the station is the Damrak Canal, where there is a beautiful view of the iconic, colorful, traditional Dutch houses. This is a popular place for photos, and you can walk down a stairway next to the canal for that perfect shot. We enjoyed a slow walk along this small canal section just to take in the beautiful ambiance. Along the Damrak, there are many restaurants, attractions, and shops. It is an easy walk, bike, or tram ride from the station to the Dam Square, and for us, it was a short, leisurely walk that allowed us to take in the scenery.
The Amstel River runs through Amsterdam, and in the 13th century, there was an actual dam that connected settlements on both sides of the Amstel River. Amsterdam got its name from the combination of Amstel and dam. The dam square is in the location of the original dam in the Amstel River, and since then, other parts of the Amstel River have been filled in. In 1856, a war memorial was built in the square, and in 1956, the current national monument was built in memory of World War II and other wars. The monument features a concrete pillar encased by white stone entitled De Vrede, meaning peace, with 4 chained male figures representing the suffering that occurred during the war. In front of the monument on both sides are 2 lion sculptures representing the Netherlands as a whole. There is also a wall behind the monument that contains soil from all of the Dutch provinces as well as the Dutch East Indies.
Across the street from the National Monument sits the Royal Palace of Amsterdam, or Koninklijk Paleis, which is King Willem Alexander's official reception palace. It is open to visitors as much as possible, although we have not yet toured this beautiful building. Right next to the palace, just to the right in this video, stands Amsterdam's new church, or De Nieuwe Kerk, built in the 15th century. Continuing along Paleisstraat, we cross a very busy street called Nieuwezijds voor Boekwal, a central historic street in the heart of the city. You can see that even the busiest roadways in this city are shared by cars, trams, bicycles, and pedestrians. Along this route, we crossed over 3 canals, and at each one, we stopped to take in the beautiful scenery and fall colors. Finally, walking along Griesstraat, we made it to the Prinsengracht Canal, where we had a spectacular view of the Westerkerk, or Western Church, standing next to the Anne Frank Huis.
From the Rijstraat Bridge, we walked along the Prinsengracht for about 240 meters, or 800 feet, enjoying the gorgeous trees and peaceful ambiance until we arrived at the Westerkerk. This church stands very close to the Anne Frank Huis, and Anne mentioned it in her diary that when the family was in hiding from the Nazis, they could regularly hear the church bells ringing. The church clock tower would chime every 15 minutes, giving Anne a sense of reassurance as time passed in the world outside the annex. The church was opened when we arrived, so we decided to go in and look around for a short time inside this historic building. We still had about an hour and a half before our admission appointment at the Anne Frank House, so we looked around for a quiet place to have lunch. We settled on a very nice restaurant called Black and Blue, which we all really enjoyed. When planning a visit to the Anne Frank House, it is important to know that tickets go on sale at 10 a.m. Central European Time every Tuesday for visits 6 weeks later. Tickets sell out quickly, so it is best to purchase tickets 6 weeks in advance of your planned visit.
You can see the front of the Anne Frank House from the street at Prissengracht 263, which is the front of the building that housed the business Opekta that sold pectin for making jam. Otto Frank, Anne's father, owned this business, and when Nazi Germany invaded the Netherlands in 1940, he, with the help of his employees, created a secret hiding place in the annex behind the main building. Anne's family was Jewish, and they went into hiding there with 4 other Jewish individuals to escape persecution. When standing in line near the museum entrance to the Anne Frank House, we stood right next to the Westerkerk, showing how close the family was to this church when they were in hiding. We booked tickets for the museum visit plus the introductory program, which includes a short presentation and time for questions, in a separate room that also has a detailed timeline and other displays related to Anne's diary and story of her family's time here.
We were allowed to take photos and videos in this introduction room, but not in the actual house or museum. The timeline presented here was extremely moving, with touching photos of the family in happy times before the Nazi invasion, and then photos and significant artifacts from the times during and after the persecution. Also in this room were other significant items, including the cover from Anne's diary, and food ration stamps from that time. We wanted to learn more about the courageous story of Anne and her family, so we bought 2 books, one of which is a reprint of Anne Frank's actual diary, which is a detailed first-hand account of Anne's experiences while in hiding from Nazi persecution. Walking through the Anne Frank House and Museum is an emotional experience. Seeing tangible evidence of how this family lived while they were hiding, while at the same time seeing video accounts and seeing and hearing quotes from Anne, Otto Frank, and others about how these amazing people were simply trying to live a life with some semblance of normalcy, while the many horrors of the world around them were closing in to bring them suffering for no other reason than their being Jewish.
After a sobering afternoon at the Anne Frank House, it was time for a leisurely canal cruise to see more of the city. There are many companies that offer canal cruises in Amsterdam, but we chose this company because their departure location is right next to the Anne Frank House. The boat also has an open deck in the back and was perfect for us to get some video footage and photos. This cruise was more than 1 hour, and we saw many sights from around the city. We can't show you everything here, but this cruise was truly a highlight of our entire visit to the Netherlands. We started with a beautiful view of the Westerkerk, where you can see exactly where we were standing when waiting in line for the Anne Frank House. It was so relaxing watching the colorful trees and houses drift by as we slowly cruised through the canals. It was a narrated tour, but I spent most of my time on the open deck in the back of the boat, where I couldn't hear the narration. But to me, it was worth it to get the very best views of this beautiful city. One of the highlights of this cruise was a beautiful view of St. Nicholas Kirk, or the Basilica of St. Nicholas. This basilica is also visible from the train station, but this is a much closer view. The church was built in 1887 and was elevated to basilica status in 2012. Finally, we had some beautiful views of Amsterdam Central Station and the area where we began our walk several hours ago.
On this single-day visit to Amsterdam, we had a nice lunch, spent a good amount of time at the Anne Frank Huis, and took a nice long leisurely canal cruise. That is about all we had time for, and unfortunately didn't have time to visit any other museums or other attractions before heading back to Utrecht. During previous visits, however, I did have a chance to go to some of the other fantastic museums around Amsterdam. I spent some time at the magnificent Rijksmuseum, where there are many famous works of art, including Vermeer's Milkmaid, Rembrandt's The Night Watch, and a self-portrait of Vincent van Gogh, which is the proper pronunciation of Van Gogh. I also visited the Van Gogh Museum, which explores the life and famous paintings of this world-famous Dutch artist. In addition to these, there are many other museums in the city that we will eventually get around to visiting, including the Stedelijk Museum of Contemporary Art, the Nemo Science Museum, the Royal Palace, the Rembrandt House Museum, the Straat Museum of Street Art and Graffiti, the Fabrique des Lumières, where famous works of art are projected onto large industrial walls, Body Worlds, and probably several other museums and attractions. We could easily spend several days in Amsterdam and still not see everything that we are interested in. But today was a very good day in Amsterdam, and we look forward to our next visit.
In our next episode, we visit Kasteel de Haar, or Castle de Haar, just west of Utrecht, Netherlands. This is the largest castle in the Netherlands and is surrounded by a 55-acre park with winding paths, water features, and colorful formal gardens. Even in October, the gardens were vibrant with flowers, and the dahlia gardens at this time were spectacular. We spent much of the afternoon walking around the gardens, enjoying the flowers and fall colors, and then walked through the inside of the castle. We then had a peaceful country walk to get to the nearest bus stop. It was a beautiful, relaxing day, and we look forward to showing you around. See you there. Thank you for watching, and please don't forget to give us a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel.